SEO versus PPC statistics. You are welcome to We Don't Play podcast, where you listen and live, you learn and you earn. You listen, you live, you learn, and you earn. That's a great deal out here because there are a lot of things that you listen to, right, every day, including this message you're about to listen to again. And there's a way you're going to live or feel after this happens, right? So if your goal is to listen and live, then if you have to listen, then you have to listen in learning mode, right? So that you can also be in earning mode. Those are two modes that have to work together so that they can work hand in hand. So I'm really here today to help you really grow and ask yourself the question about this topic today, SEO versus PPC, because a lot of businesses run ads every day, especially today. Happy Juneteenth, everybody, if you're listening to this. It's a very important topic to actually ask yourself and answer these questions when it comes to the statistics are very heavy, they're very different, they're very sudden. So we have to also ask ourselves and know, okay, what are we really looking for? And if we're really asking ourselves these major questions, right, we have to also know where more people are going to get more traffic or more advertisements. You can go online and search for these things, and I want us to talk about that today because there's always this conception of content and what works, what doesn't work. And I feel like if we can look at what works and build into the workings of creating those two measurements, it can really do well for you. So we're going to cover this today and, have this topic within the hour. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to send a message or raise your hand. And I look forward to answering your questions. So share this room out because we're going to be here for a while. And we're going to talk about these things too. And so you can also see where this information is coming from, because I think it's also good for people to, look at these things. And I like to cite sources so that you can also, read, do your own research. There are billions of blogs out there. So this one should not be the only one you should read. So I'll put the link in the chat for you to read that too. In case you've never read or seen, people need to be visual. There are different types of learners. So you can be aesthetic, let me say kind of aesthetic. You can be a auditory learner, you can be a logical, mathematical. You have to visual as well. You have to see things to believe things. So I wanted to make sure that you can see that link in the chat. So read it, and I'm going to point out some of the things that I see there and some other things too that I see outside that, especially when it comes to conversion rates and cost per lead. That's the meat and potatoes of CPC, CTR, or let me just make it broad, SEO and PPC. That is search engine optimization and pay per click. Welcome 56. See how I rhymed there? Hey Anita, welcome to the room. Nima, Jasmine A, Seima, Sinj, Ellie, Finad, Susan, and Wendy. This is a global app, so feel free to let us know where you are. I think the last time somebody was in Germany when we're here yesterday. So we're global. So I'm really happy that you're here and connected today as well. So we're gonna cover some deep insights about some statistics where you can now decide and ask yourself, okay, am I gonna spend money or am I gonna earn money? Am I gonna spend time or am I gonna earn time? That's going to be a big thing. So today you're going to be doing four things at the end of this room or this recording or episode. After leaving here, you should have at least one of these four or all four, like Thanos, right? You can have all four. And it's possible. One, You've been able to listen to something that has allowed you to live out your dreams. Third, you're able to learn something new that allows you to earn something more because you have capacity to do more. Even for me, when I'm helping clients, helping businesses, I'm learning more because I feel like if I don't learn anything new, that's a problem. Because if they ask a question and I don't know the answer, that's a problem. I don't know all the answers, but I should know at least something well enough to help them get further from where they already are. So, where you're building that trust, where you're building that relationship comes from advertising because SEO is really advertising. It's organic advertising. PPC is paid advertising. So you're doing the same thing. SEO is advertising. If you're not doing SEO, you're not advertising. That's simple. Why? Because SEO means that you are searching on the engine and you're optimizing on a consistent basis. Consistent doesn't have to be every day. You can set it up to be every day if you have the automation systems, but you can also do it manually every day and also do it within a schedule that is fit for you. You don't have to do all these things we're talking about all the time. But at some point, all these things, at some point, they'll all have to happen at some time. So the faster you're able to get to the finish line, the faster you're able to start again. It's like, when you play a game and you go through like go-kart racing or you drive through a racing track, and let's say you have 3 laps. You go to the first lap, you finish, you go to the second lap, you finish, and then you go to the third lap, and now you finish the actual race. That's optimization, right? First place, first time you were probably first place, second time you're probably third place, then you've probably finished first place again. So that's going to happen with SEO because it's not every day you're going to be first place. It's not every day you're going to be second place. It's not every day you're going to be third place. But every day you should be increasing more awareness. Every day your Google Search Console should be showing you more information. If you connected your Search Console today and a month from now, you have 50 new queries. Those are 50 new questions that people are asking your website or asking your business. Because it's like if you get 50 requests, like let's just throw it back, right? Let's just do a quick throwback. Imagine, welcome, Madeline. Imagine, right? You have 50 requests, 50 requests, and these 50 requests are coming from a mailbox. So you open your mailbox and you get flooded with 50 requests. Those 50 requests are 50 queries. Now it will be the pretty much now at this point the ball is in your court because you have to sort out those 50 and find out who out of the 50 needs this and then when did they send it from the day you received it. Because when you also think about SEO is a long-term game, but you also have to think about the front end part of it. Because when you're looking at it from both a paid perspective and an organic perspective, there are two things you have to also think about the average between them two. So let me just give you a comparison chart real quick. Now, across all industries, right? I've said this before and I'll keep saying this. And I want you to know this so that when you know it, you know exactly what it is. And you can also do your research, right? Across all industries, I mean, every single NAICS code, SACE code, whatever you want to call it, code, any business that you're doing online, offline. Welcome, Ifeanyi and Candice. Thanks for being here. Anything that you have online, right, is going to have a conversion rate. What is a conversion rate in the first place, right? When you think about a conversion rate, you're looking at the total amount of a figure. Let's say, for example, let's just do a click-through rate because we can also do the same thing as a conversion rate. When you look at a click-through rate, right, it means that if I had 1,000 visitors come to my website, and out of 1,000 visitors that came to my website, 10 out of 1,000 visitors that came to my website signed up to my email list. 10. That means I have a 1% conversion. Now, when you hear conversion, every time someone hears the word conversion, this is what they're thinking. That's true, but it could also be this. That's also a conversion. Those two signals are conversions. And why did I start with the cash first and not last? Because that's what most people want to get to first instead of building the relationship first. If I come to your store or I go to a laundromat or I go to a restaurant, I'm going to tap on that bell that you just heard for the person that's going to serve me to tell me what's on the menu, right? So let's just treat it like old school style, traditional, classic. How do you meet somebody? You don't just marry somebody on the first day. You date, you talk to the person, you get to know what they like, what are their love languages. I don't know if you know this, but I also like to bring this thing in between. But have you ever asked your partner, whether in business or friendship or relationship, hey, what's your love language? Have you also asked them, what is your apology language? Right? You have to ask these questions because when they tell you what they say back to you, believe them because that's how they feel when they're expressing themselves to you. Right. So if they tell you, I like this, I don't like this, then respect that because that's what they want to see when that happens. Because if you go contrary to that, now you're not being compliant. Now you're just being crazy. And then that's going to create a whole new thing that you don't want. So to avoid that, you're able to know exactly what people want. That's the same thing you want to apply to when it comes to SEO and PPC because the more pages that you have on your website, the more cumulative traffic you can gain, which can ultimately increase the number of conversions you can have. And when you hear the click first, it means that you have more visitors. So if you keep hearing that bell every time someone comes to your website, that's a potential for somebody to buy from you. But that doesn't mean they're going to buy from you at that moment. They might end up referring you to someone. They might say, okay, I like what you're doing. I'm going to send my cousin, or I'm going to send my friend, or I'm going to send somebody that I know that is in business that needs this. That's a win. It's not a cash gain, it's a relationship gain because that relationship can bring you more money than anything because relationships. So when you think about your business long term, you're looking at it from the perspective of conversions, right? Am I getting organic conversions? Meaning, am I getting people to actually sign up to my website? If I have a conversation with you right now and you end up going to my website and signing up, that means that was a conversion. It means that there's something that made sense to you in this room, right? That's a conversion. That means that there's this trust that has been enabled that wasn't there before. Because before I didn't have your contact, now you're on my phone as a contact. Now I have your picture. Now we have a text thread. Now we can share gifts. Now we even play games. Like now we're actually having good. Now we can FaceTime. That's because we've built a relationship beyond the digits on the contact card. So when you look at your website with a different perspective and you look at your website and say, okay, I have a website. What am I going to use my website for? I want my website to bring in leads. Okay. If I give you leads today, boom, here you go. What are you going to do with them? It's like saying if you win the lottery today, what are you going to do with it? If you didn't plan, that money can go fast if you don't plan. So if you're planning, your planning is to plan ahead. And if you're planning to purchase something, you're planning with a purchase intent. You're going to think about the different things you're going to analyze, you're going to process, you're going to think about it, especially big purchases like homes, cars, insurance, just huge things. You're going to have to think about those things and ask yourself, okay, am I investing my time in this? Is this worth my time in the first place? And if it's worth my time, then how much am I going to actually spend on this so that I know a year from now, I'm benefiting what I could have been doing now that I shouldn't be doing now because I already did it then. So that's where it comes to with these statistics. So if you compare the two, right? And I'm going to give you that comparison. You can click the link in the chat. The SEO conversion rate in 2025 is 2.4%. I remember last year was 2.2%. So we've gone up 0.2%. People say SEO is down, SEO is dead, SEO is this, SEO is that. Guess what? SEO is going nowhere. Just like you're not going anywhere. It's just that's the same way SEO is not going anywhere, right? And when you think about the long-term effect of what you're doing on Earth and you're leaving a legacy for the next generations to come, you're actually creating an imprint that is going to impact people. You don't know the things that you do impact people. Sometimes you may just be doing things because you enjoy it, but you don't even realize that someone's watching you and wants to be like you because they love what you do and they actually love what you stand for. They love your ethics, they love your integrity, they love your style. They just love your name. They just love something that is just bringing them happiness when they think about you. That's a good feeling. That's a good thing. If you think about someone and you have a bad feeling, there's nothing you can do but repel because that's not what you want to feel. And most times people want to get out of that feeling as fast as they can. So if you want to bring people closer, the goal is to see how can we now make this as a better relationship model as opposed to a push push push, because when you look at, just let me just say it this way, right? When you look at ads on Google or YouTube, how many people have watched a full YouTube ad from start to finish? Let's say it's 2 minutes long. Put a one in the chat if you've ever finished a 2 minute YouTube ad and you came to watch a video, but that video you watched it. Natalie said never. Thank you. Thank you, Nasli. Anita says, I have. Anita, if you did, that means you liked what you were watching. And chances are it was based off the history of what you normally watch as well. And let me know if, unless it was something completely different that you're interested in. Candice as well says, I have, or I was looking for things to criticize. You see, that could be another thing too, because you'd be like, maybe, I don't know. Is this something I want to watch? There's a video I've watched on, let's say on YouTube, maybe once or twice, but I would watch, even on Instagram, it may say, okay, that video is 4 minutes long, but I'll actually watch the full 4 minute clip because I'm interested in what the person is saying. I'm not watching it so that I can just watch away my time because I'm looking for watch hours. I'm thinking about what am I gaining from this time I'm investing in that's going to get me information that I didn't have. That's the goal. So if 2.4% is the average standard conversion rate for all industries across the web, 2.4% in 2025. PPC, which is pay per click, if you run ads with pay per click, the conversion rate drops from 2.4% to 1.3%, meaning that if you are going to run ads, welcome Julie, welcome Brian, glad to have you all here. If you run ads and you're running ads as a long-term planner, then the way you're going to run ads would be different from the way you run campaigns, because ads are different from campaigns. We may think, yeah, campaigns last longer. When there's a political campaign, when there's a social campaign, when there's a fill in the blank campaign means more than one day. So if you're going to campaign and you're spending an amount for the campaign, or the budget for the campaign is X, then how much am I going to put in before I'm able to spend X? Right? If it's going to be 2X, then I put in two times as much so that when X is applied, I have two times the power. If it's 4, if it's 8, if it's 16, 32, 64, like that, you're able to see, okay, if I put in all this amount of organic workflow, meaning that my website in January 1st had 2 pages. By June 1st, it now has 20 pages. That's a great gain because that's real estate that you didn't have. That means in the next 24 months from now, you could still be benefiting from that. In the next 6 weeks from now, you can still be benefiting from that. Because if you're backlinked from another source and you have more resources on your website, that creates more signals because you have more traffic base. If you look at the roads, the only reason why there's traffic on the road is because there's an actual road. If there's no road, there's no traffic. So when you really look at the logic behind creating traffic and running ads, you really realize that organically SEO is technically advertising, because every time you show up on Google, on Bing, on ChatGPT, on wherever, you're advertising because they didn't know your name before. Now they do. They didn't know what you had. Now they do. So when you start creating these statistics and asking yourself, okay, how much am I going to spend on ads? How am I going to spend this money on ads that is going to allow me to know who I need to really spend my time with? Because when we run ads, I would say, hey, run a $30 ad for a month, meaning you run $1 a day to a specific audience that you want to connect with. How do you know you want to connect with them? Why? Because, first of all, they came to your website as a visitor. That's how you're able to know when you look at your analytics. Two, you can see the web sessions. Those web sessions tell you how people connect. A web session means the amount of time somebody spends on your website per page. That's why there's something called sessions per page, or the average pages per session. So if there are 4 pages per session, that means if I'm spending 30 seconds per page, that means I'm able to have 120 seconds compared to somebody else who has 2 pages and I'm spending an hour. That's great, but those 2 hours would not outlast the other pages that I have that more people could actually binge on, which will create more value. Because if I only have 2 pages, a homepage and an account page or a gallery page, then that's all I have. But if I have a blog, I have content, I have information, I have resources, I have things that you can see, it becomes a candy store. And now people want to come back. You don't go to a parade because there's one circus. You go there because there's a candy store, there are things around that you can actually enjoy. So when you're thinking about the same things for your website, it's what you're bringing to the people. Because don't forget about this too. When you're running ads, you're technically running ads to your website or to your domain. I don't think anybody runs ads to a domain outside a domain they control or own, unless that's completely, I don't know, please correct me, but I'm sure if you run an ad, the goal is to run an ad to a destination that you can see traffic from, you can analyze from. And most times it's your website. Most times it could be maybe a bit.ly link or something, but those links are referring back to your website. So there has to be a creativity model that has to be created that allows you to still think about that. And 56 asked the question, why most people fail at Google Ads is because of wrong targeting. That's the answer. Wrong targeting. If you run ads and you're saying, okay, let's do $5 a day to the state of Texas, okay, who's going to check this out? I don't know. Anybody could. How many zip codes are there? A lot. So how are you going to mine that information to say, I want people who go to this, they like this, they do this, this is what they like. Right now it's Juneteenth. Some people are outside, some people are having a barbecue, some people are home, some people are in bed. Everybody's doing what they're doing. So how will you know who is going to really be where they need to be for you to show up for them when they need you the most? So how do you do that? Is by creating an ecosystem that allows you to create organic posts on your website that allows you to still retract back to your domain from social. Because if I'm going to be posting content for someone and say, okay, I'm going to do your social media or I'm going to do your content, that means that if I'm putting out content on your Pinterest or your LinkedIn or anywhere on social, even if it's a podcast, that should be able to give you more traffic over time because you've been able to set up a system that allows you to gain intel. Because if you're going to run ads to anywhere, anytime, it's because you're running it from somewhere. That somewhere is your analytics dashboard on your website. If you know that people from Utah are checking out your website every day, you're going to run an ad to people in Utah that's going to specifically talk about that. So your goal is to let people know, hey, I can see you're visiting the website. How may I help you? Just like when you go to a store, you look confused, you're not sure what to get, and then someone says, hey, may I help you? It's the same thing online. These days, people are using AI chatbots. They're using different things. They're just using, big text to tell you, hey, click here, move from here to here. Because when people come in, they want to feel connected. So if you're thinking about running ads in 2025, please don't run an ad in 2025 if you haven't created content on your website first. You can always do what you want, 100%. You can always do what you want. That's up to you. But here's the thing. If you're able to save that money and spend the time to run ads after you have spent time on your website, then you're going to gain more feedback and more intel, more data, more analysis, which will give you more equity. Because in a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, let's say you want to have an exit plan, or you want to sell your business, or you want to become an initial public offering, an IPO. When you start thinking about those measures, it's these things we're talking about that are going to matter, because it's where you planted first that people are going to remember first. So when you plant online and you plant these seeds, plant these pages, let people know, hey, we do this, FAQs, we do this, we do this. Eventually, someone's going to find out and say, hey, I know who can do this. And then they'll refer them to you. If you weren't talking about it before, how will they refer you in the first place? So that's why it's really good for you to be online and show up for the people. If you don't want to do an article and you say I'm not good with writing, there's AI. You can do that. There's so many tools nowadays. You can automate things and really go really crazy with it. And then you do your math and you say, okay, in a month, let me run all this organic feedback. You have 3 months, right? So in the first quarter, the first month, you do organic marketing. Talk about all your FAQs, do all your videos, answer all the questions, go to answerthepublic.com. Go to all these places that we always talk about and then answer the actual questions. And you answer, let me say it this way. The way you will qualify this answer as a certified answer to validate the attribution to how you guarantee a sale or guarantee at least a lead or some type of conversion through conversation is when that keyword is translated from just being a text to a rich text. So, how do you convert text to rich text? Rich text means it's in the form of an article or blog or newsletter. It could be in the form of a podcast. It could be in the form of a book, which is an ebook. It could be in the form of a video. It could be in the form of anything. But anything that you do within those multimedia formats, they should still relate and translate back to your website so that that keyword that you were looking for in the first place is the actual keyword that is pointing to that content based on the link that you provided. So if it's your domain.com slash food dash tips dash vegetarians, right? Now, that is a vegetarian food tips blog that you just created for that connection, for that audience. Now, because you want to rank for the word vegetarian food tips or, vegetarian recipes or vegetarian this, vegetarian that, the word vegetarian needs to be part of your brand. Because if your website is your domain.com slash something that is not vegetable, then who are you really talking to? The people who are not talking about vegetables. And that's where you go wrong, because when you now run ads, the same ads you're running people to or from is still coming from a website that you still have your intel from. So if I'm running an ad and I know that this ad is slash vegetable food tips, and I'm running an ad specifically to an article that's talking about the recipes you can buy, here are the Amazon finds that you can get, here are all the goodie bags, you can buy this apron, you can do this, you can do that, here are the spices you can mix up. Like you start, and then there are YouTube videos, there's TikTok. You're giving people all this juice. They'll be like, wow, from vegetarian food tips to now learning all these things. Now I'm so knowledgeable about this information that because I've earned traffic organically and it's actually performing well, because I've sent it through email, I've sent it to X, I've sent it to LinkedIn, I've even created a newsletter. or an article for that specific topic on my LinkedIn in support of the article, when you start doing those things and now you run ads and now you run those same ads to the same pages, you're going to spend less money because you've spent more time. But most people spend more money with paid marketing and then they still spend less time organically. So I want to open up the floor. John, Brian, Julie, anyone in the chat, please feel free. I would love to hear your thoughts on this and welcome to the space. What are your thoughts and how do you do SEO versus PPC?
Jump in very quickly. I don't differentiate between the two. I would say SEO has been a big game changer for me. As for a lot of people know, the primary product I have is a podcast. And my goal is to get people to listen to it. That generates revenue. The other one is social media. So when I look at SEO, one of the main differences is that every episode of the show I put up is a web page. I just did an audit on my website yesterday. It's more than 1,000 pages total. And so if it's not keyword accessible, then people don't find that episode by the topic. About 58% of all new podcasts are discovered in podcast directory searches, Apple and Spotify, when people search on topics and keywords. It's the same principles, except 100% of those people are podcast listeners. I don't have to make the jump from Google or social media when people want on a site that have no intention of listening to a podcast. That's a substantial loss. Where they both have in common, SEO, pay per click, whether it be paid ads through Google AdWords or social media ads or whatever it might be, it's about web traffic. And I have to look at how many people am I getting to my website and what percentage of them am I converting into new consumers. That not necessarily a sale. So the conversion is the most important. They sign up for a newsletter. Do they open up another way? They go to my social media. Do there are other things I can generate revenue from? Or they listen to podcasts, which is another revenue stream. So again, I would say is all that the pay per click, whether it be SEO, Google AdWords, or SEO, or social media, paid ads and organic, it's all about driving traffic. And that's where the more traffic I get, the more consumption I get. It's just that simple. More conversions I get.
Thank you, John. Yeah, definitely. The web sessions, organic sessions, web traffic, that's where you get to really know where people are and how they interact with your website, what they do, where they click, how they click, when they click. You know, is it in the morning, at late night? And is it because of the email you sent or because something happened and they thought about you in the process? It's a whole lot going on, but definitely SEO is a long-term thing, but it can also be short-term depending on how you move it, right? Because if the same words you're paying for on Google Keywords or Google AdWords or YouTube, those same keywords you're paying for, if they're not showing up on your website as a link, then you'd be paying more for those links over time. Because if I don't know if people know this, but keywords are like gas prices. I think I'm going to say this again. Keywords are like gas prices. They go up, down, up, down. Then it's a variable cost. It's never a fixed cost because today's price is not yesterday's price. So if you're running ads and you're running ads at the price, let's say it's $1.60, and you could have been spending 30 cents, you could be like, what? How did I miss that? Because you didn't realize that the same words that you're putting in the caption, in your video, those things change everything. It completes everything. I'm going to give you guys a hack I heard about this morning because I love to share, because when information comes to me like this, it's this for a reason. It's not for me to keep, because I feel like if I keep it, it's not going to be a good thing. It needs to be shared with the world because people are sharing it, and I feel like my connections should also hear it too. Now, I don't know if you know this, but this is something that, Mr. Beast actually talked about. I saw this very early this morning, right? Yeah, they fluctuate depending on supply and demand. Did you know this? And I've been trying it myself and I didn't realize it. And I think it's because it hit me and I was like, huh, that's different. Because I realized On Instagram, this is going to give you an aha moment, guys. You're going to feel like this. You're going to feel like this after I say this, if you've never thought about this. And Mr. Beast talked about it, and it makes sense because his biggest video, his most watched video, and I think he was on an interview with Mark Zuckerberg and other guys on a podcast, and he was saying it. Mr. Beast said this. I'm paraphrasing. He said he's the most watched, the most viral video on his Instagram. And he was talking to Mark Zuckerberg, and like he's saying, hey, on your platform, the most watched video on my platform, on your platform, is this. And he was doing that video where like how much money you can carry, and yeah, from 0 to 120,000. So you could actually watch, him running. And the reason why that video did so well is not because of the money he was having in his hand. It's because he didn't say a word. So what does that mean? The algorithm understands when you speak English, Spanish, Danish, French, whatever it is, Chinese, Mandarin, they will know what it is because he was not saying a word. And it made sense because I've done the same thing too with music, where you don't say a word, meaning that you're not speaking any language. So the algorithm cannot pick up the language to serve the information to the people who use that language as a default setting on their devices. So it got me thinking like, oh, that's a technical move because it makes sense. The same way with Walmart and Apple, the reason why Walmart doesn't allow you to have Apple Pay is because of the charges Apple would be giving. So Apple doesn't want, let me say it this way, Walmart doesn't want to have Apple in Walmart's market share. That's why you can't use Apple Pay or any kind of tap to pay with Walmart, not because they can't do it. HEB just started doing it. It's because Walmart doesn't want to have Apple into their market share, into their profit share. So that's the simple reason. And it made sense. I was like, oh, yeah, makes sense. Same thing with your website. If you're not showing up in the algorithm, how are you going to be served to the algorithm? So it starts off with having your keywords like a bank, knowing that, okay, this is my keyword bank. This is how much my keyword bank costs, meaning that if I use this cluster of keywords, it's going to generate X amount of traffic per month. Because the words that you're saying with keywords are not just words, it's life. When you speak words, it's life. You don't just say good morning. It's not just good morning. There's life in that good morning because for you to say good morning, you have to have life. So you don't take it lightly that you're just saying good morning, right? So when you're thinking about these things and you're connecting with people, it's the psychology. I don't just talk SEO because, yeah, click here, buy now. No, those days are gone. You have to build a relationship because that's what's going to take you further. People who you've talked to years from now, is going to come back better and better over time. So your goal is to think about these statistics, like John is saying too, and understand who you're really connecting with, who your real audience is. So that's something that I wanted to share with you about the languages. And if you try it out, especially if you run ads, even better, because that was done organically and he got those millions of organic reach. Now imagine putting money on that. Now, what would be a hack for that? Putting captions. Now, that may be a little different because captions can still be scanned, they can still be read, they can still be transcribed. So, but still, it can still happen because he put dollar signs and put, text. So it's still possible. You have to test these things. So imagine running ads with just music and captions, no language, but all communication and all message, all feeling, all vibes. You're gonna win big, and it happens. Right now I'm running an ad. I'm doing a split ad between Luxembourg and United States, and I've been spending about $1 a day, and I'm getting about 9 cents, but I'm reaching about 1,000 clicks. So it's like, okay, I see what's happening here. There's connection between the website, the podcast, the emails. Every time somebody subscribing to the website, I wake up in the morning, it's 3 a.m., somebody subscribed. So I see these things because it's active, it's responsive. SEO is not a one-time fix-all thing. That's why I always say you can do SEO today, tomorrow, but in a week or 5 weeks or 5 months from now, you might need to do SEO more because you want to make sure that every quarter, every biannual process, you're able to really do an audit and say, okay, where have we drawn back? Where can we add more? What can we do more of? What can we do less of? And that just makes everything better. So I think it's really good to look at those things too as well. Julie, what are your thoughts on SEO and PPC? Would you run more ads or would you publish more blogs or articles?
I would do both. I don't think there is one answer to this question. I think it is strategic to have all your fingers, if you're really doing this the right way, and all the different cookie jars, if you will. So don't just restrict yourself to one place. Do always be working on SEOs, and then be strategic about your dollar placement for marketing. That would be my best advice. I honestly, as I'm thinking about it, I don't know any better advice than that. So thank you.
I love that, Julie. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it definitely has to be, a big win when you're able to see exactly where your keywords are, how you even match them, how do you phrase them, how do you place them. Those things really matter. Imagine running ads and really like being very specific, like doing hacks like, I know this is some great sauce, guys, but not everyone's going to do this. That's why I always like to say this thing. So when it's done, at least you did it. But if it wasn't done, at least it can be done. Imagine running ads and then instead of putting just text, right? You can put you can put the same text in form of a quotation mark. So if it's a keyword and you're saying here are meat pie recipes, right? You capitalize M and R, and then quotation marks in between the words. That's a phrase match. A phrase match, right? And that phrase match is going to be within the capacity of that word. Now, if it's an exact match, you're going to use brackets, right? You know how they say buy now, listen now, or sign up here. When you see those brackets, when people run ads, in the back of that algorithm, there's a code, there's a crypt, how do I say this? There's an encryption. Let me say it like that. There's an encryption that when this, like if this, then that, right? That whole spreadsheet formula, Excel spreadsheet, if this, then that. So when you put something within a sequence that is having a very specific framework on how you're able to run ads, how you're able to be very specific, meticulous on how you show up online, what do people want to read? Because if I'm going to read something and it makes me feel better, then I'm going to lean more towards it. But if I read something and it makes me feel like, huh? Then I don't want to read another sentence or another letter because that's going to make me even more agitated or irritated than I already am. So somebody doesn't want to feel like that, so they'll just swipe off or just look away. So if you don't want someone to look away and you want them to stay, then the words that you're keeping them with are the words that they've always been using. And that's why keyword research is important. So that when you now do that keyword research and you're able to match the intent of the search, right? There's pre-purchase intent and there's post-purchase intent. YouTube is a great example of post-purchase intent, and Amazon and Pinterest are great examples of pre-purchase intent, right? Because when you think about things that people are doing, they are doing it based on how they are able to learn more about what they need before a transaction happens. So when you're creating connections and you're running ads, especially with PPC, your goal is to make sure that that 1.4 average is higher, 1.3 average, because 2.4% is a conversion. If you look at your Google Search Console, and if you, let's say, do a 3 month, 1 month, however you want to do it, and you see your conversion, even do 24 hours if you want to just have a quick one. By the way, let me just say this right now. I forgot to say this. Google AI mode is something that we are getting used to now. I've been looking at some research and I'm also getting to see that Google AI mode is going to be coming to Google Search Console. You're hearing this first if you haven't seen this, because I know not everybody is reading SEO news. So I love to give this information so that when you hear it, here's where you heard it first. Or if you heard it, go do your research and learn more, because I want you to learn more. This is not your final destination to learn it. So AI mode is going to be a big thing. It's still something they're talking about. So it's not official, it's unofficial. So when it does become official and it happens, there's definitely going to be a rollout and things will happen. We don't know when, whether it's this quarter, next fiscal year, we don't know. All we know is we have to just make sure we do what we're supposed to do right and just do your part. God will do his part, right? That's how it should be. Because when you start running ads and you start doing campaigns and you start doing all this organic stuff, it changes, right? Because all these platforms that we're looking at today are all existing because they have structure. All the buildings you see today that are standing strong is because of structure. All the cars that you're driving today is because of structure. If there was no structure, there'll be no functionality. All the relationships that you're in today that are doing well is because of structure. So you cannot not have structure. So the structure, it also applies to SEO. It also applies to your business. It also applies to your website. It also applies to your advertising strategy. So when you're running ads, you're not just spilling ads. You're able to do them in a way that really drives attention and retention because that's the goal. If I'm going to run ads for traffic, great. But in the process of getting traffic, I gained leads and I didn't pay for that lead because I earned it through traffic. That's a great gain. But not many people think about it like that because you've not installed your plugins, you've not installed your pop-ups, you've not installed your codes and your scripts. You're not being able to have that kind of information that helps. If you have schema and that schema is running through different capacities, you can change. You know, there are over 100 types of schema, just like there are over 100 types of ranking factors. So when we think about SEO, don't think about SEO as this cookie cutter where we just plug in a website, put a blog, and then call it a day. It's beyond that. It's like your credit, right? Your credit is going to go up and down. The gas is going to go up and down. The stocks are going to go up and down. The sun is going to go up and down. The same way your website is going to go up and down. But the day it goes down, you need to know what to do when it goes up. Because when it goes up, you want to stay up. And when you go up, the day you go down again, you don't want to go down as far down as you went the last time. And this is what I mean. If you started from 0 impressions to 1,000 impressions, you shouldn't be going back down to 0 impressions. You should be going down to like 400 impressions, 300 impressions. When you move from 300 impressions to 5,000 impressions, you should be going down to about 1,000 impressions, 500 impressions. You shouldn't be going down to 0 impressions unless something happens. But if your robots TXT is there, and your LLMS TXT is there, then you should be fine. Gaurav says, when most of the search is turning to AI platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Perplexity, don't you think SEO in itself is going to be replaced by GEO? There's no replacement. Thank you for that question. There's no replacement. It's enhancement. Because people are saying, oh, SEO is going. SEO is not going anywhere. Nowhere. The same way you're not going anywhere, SEO is not going anywhere because GEO, right, is actually going to replace paid search, not SEO. Let me just give you a quick plot twist, right? Let me just say that really quick. It's going to replace these searches that people are doing because money is, I mean, think about these platforms, right? We're going to Web3, right? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Right now, I just saw on the news they've extended the TikTok ban to September. So it's just going to be a lot going on with the administration, a lot going on with tech, a lot going on with AI. And you just be like, is this happening? Well, if the sky is blue, then cool. Right? That shouldn't change your day. It shouldn't change how you process things. Because when people start thinking about switching the plan or changing how things should be or have been, then it starts to mess up with your mind. So when you're looking at SEO, don't think about replacement. Think about enhancement. The same way we will say, oh, is AI going to replace jobs? Nobody really asks that question anymore because people know that it's going to enhance jobs, right? So there's SEO, which is search engine optimization. There's AIO, which is AI optimization. There's GEO, which is generative engine optimization. There's AEO, which is engine optimization. And there's SXO, which is search experience optimization, right? These are different types of SEO, quote unquote. So, Gaurav, to your question, is not being replaced. In fact, there's a website I talked about, and I did a whole podcast on this called Ethio. I don't know if you've heard about it before. ETHEO.co, Ethio. Go check it out. Ethio is a platform that will tell you about AI visibility off your SEO because it's the number one generative engine tool for optimization. So when you're looking at AEO, GEO, AIO, SEO, SXO, just forget all the O's. Focus on who is showing up for you, who is raising their hand, who's asking you a question, who's in your face, who's giving you their time. That's who you need to focus on, not what is the definition of this word or this acronym. So if you're thinking about creating an experience for the future, if AIO or GEO is going to represent or tell ChatGPT or Perplexity about you, then you should be somewhere within that ecosystem that you could be recognized or even be transcribed. And the only way that can happen is with a website. You can't rank on Instagram to rank on Wikipedia, or you can't rank on TikTok so you can rank on Forbes. It's not going to work. That does not work at all. Your website is what they're going to use to connect you. If you don't have a website, the next thing they're going to use is your LinkedIn. And that's not even good enough if you don't have a website. Because if you have a website and you have a LinkedIn, that's a great gain. But if you have a LinkedIn and no website, that's like a seesaw. So you don't want to be falling off a bandwagon when you could have been actually controlling the empire because you have keywords that you can acquire through content that you can distribute off your website. So I'm hoping that this SEO PPC dilemma is demystified and dispelled because we can do better with our time by using SEO more and ranking for more pages that will give us more traffic. So when we do run ads, we can run ads at a better rate and also do it at our rate. When you have a discounted rate and you're going to hotels, you're going to all this stuff, it's because you're a member. You're a Delta Sky Miles member. You're enjoying those things because you're great. You're a Founders Card member, right? Those two I am. So I know that you're gonna get those member only benefits. And that's a good thing, right? I'm an ePrime member. So I know if I'm going to be getting flights anywhere in the world, I know I'm going to be getting at 40% off, right? If you do TSA, if you do Clear, you know that you're going to have more time. So when you're thinking about the same thing online, you're processing and saying, okay, if I have 50 links, that means I know I can do this with my time. Because I've actually answered these questions that if somebody calls me on the phone today, I can directly send them to my website, which is going to do two things. It's going to earn value and it's going to earn trust. When those two are appreciated over time, that compounds a lot because now you get residuals. What does that residual look like? A referral, a review. It could look like something, or it could be anything that is going to attribute to the positivity of what you did creatively. So don't run any ads if you're not doing any SEO. And SEO means content optimization, local optimization. I think I'm going to do a room tomorrow on local versus international SEO. I'm going to talk about that because this whole language thing is becoming a thing. And I feel like if you're able to know how to run it, then you can really do a good thing too. Mo, want to ask you something about copy. What would you say, especially now with AI, English, like just different languages, how are we moving? Where do you think we're going with conversions when we look at organic and paid advertising?
Yeah, what's up? Thanks for having me. I think content or copy is copy, right? It's um and it's really going to depend on your audience. Like for me, I'm more bold and brash, right? I hate with a passion. I hate basic copy, right? I gotta have some energy. I gotta have some juice. And unfortunately for me, like I'll look at something and be like, yeah, that's effective, but it's not gonna move me because I look at it in a different structure or a different light. Right. And I think earlier you were saying something about, what would you choose? SEO or pay per click? Um, for me, it really depends on how fast I need results. Right. So if I can slowball it, then I'm gonna go SEO. Right. But if I need results tomorrow, I got to go with with the PPC. Um, And so with that, I mean, it doesn't even have to be high budget, but I just need to get results and build momentum. Yeah, I'm going PPC all day. Um, and as far as as far as I was just mentioning a little bit like budget, um, I'm sure every entrepreneur in this room has had this dilemma, right? When you have more time than money, then you got to spend the time, right? Which definitely is going to lead you to SEO all day. But if you have more money than time, then you just PPC that thing, and and keep it pimping. So that's just a little bit on that. But yeah, I'm going to share one of my copy tips with everybody in the room. Is always start every sentence with verbs and adverbs. Right, these are action words, and you condition your audience to take an action because you got a CTA at the end, right? No matter what, whether it's follow you on Instagram, subscribe to your YouTube channel, join your Facebook group, come back to my next clubhouse room. There's always a CTA, right? Every piece of content should have a CTA. So when you start showing these action words, like at the beginning of each sentence, right, it's kind of shows that you're action oriented, right? And you're also conditioning your audience to take that action at the end. So when you're doing your copy, just keep that fundamental in mind. Verbs and adverbs up front. Oh, and another thing, it's more of a structure thing for me. But my general guideline is no sentence should be longer than 10 words, right? You might get a 10, you might get a 12, you might get a 13, but generally keep it 10 words under, and no paragraph should have more than 5 sentences. So, 4 or 5 sentences max, impact up front, impact at the end, headlines for each paragraph for the skimmers, and then you keep it moving because now the content and the information, the data, is in bite-sized chunks that they could chew out and not even realize that, hey, I've been on this page for 15 minutes already, right? Because I'm scrolling down and scrolling down with that long form copy. Well, we could talk about that later, but that's how you keep your people interested, how you keep them on the page, as you were saying earlier. The words you select is going to definitely indicate um, their bounce rate, right? So if they're coming to your site and they're bouncing in less than 10 seconds, you ain't said shit that keeps them there, right? So you got to look at your word structure. You got to look at, whether you put the right message in front of the wrong people or you put in the wrong message in front of the right people, right? So, those are things that you got to work at. And as Favor was saying with your SEO, when it comes to your copy, you're always tweaking, right? You're always changing because, you know, market changes, right? There's, like you said, a week ago, nobody was bombing anybody, right? Last Thursday night, all of a sudden out of nowhere, Israel set it off, right? But so that's going to change your content calendar, right? It's going to change, everything that you do. The Feds didn't raise or didn't cut the interest rate because they're not sure what's going to happen with this war, right? Trump cut short the G7 meeting, to cut short the trade deals because he didn't know what was going to happen. So even though this don't directly impact our businesses, it's a cascading effect all the way throughout the entire economy, right? So that impacts our customers, that impacts our consumers of information, and impacts everybody in every single facet what's going on worldwide. So just pay attention to that as well. And with that, I'll close the mic. It's Mo Dub and I'm out.
Thank you, Mudav. I love that you brought out some really great gems, especially when you think about the action words. Because when people are seeing things, they have to respond. And the best way to, really look at that, like you said, what I was thinking about was, or is, that's something I should be actively doing, which I am doing too. And I always like to get better at it, is headlines. You can never have the best headline. Like you can have a podcast headline that was smack dab dope in January 2024. But in June 2025, you're like, that does not sound right anymore. And that's totally fine because you've grown. You've gotten better. So you can change things. And even like you said, Mo, when I'm looking at the action words, in my mind, I know for sure, and I've seen this happen, especially with emails, to increase open rates and click rates, is to use question marks. I think question marks are the most underrated characters because, especially for email, for subject lines, for podcast titles, for blog titles, when you start using question marks, like you said, that's not going to spark interest. Today is Thursday. That actually makes you think, oh yeah, it is Thursday. But if I say today's Thursday, you'll be like, yay. It's like, okay, cool story, bro. You won't really get that full effect because the emotion is different, the impact is different, the feeling is different, it hits different. So I feel the same way like you feel more when you said that, because that allows people to really connect. And even Hidden says it too, it has to resonate with our targeted audience, and also it affects us indirectly. When the pandemic happened, look at what happened to everybody. Things that were supposed to happen that didn't happen. So when we look at things happening, we think about our words as seasonable words. Nobody's saying happy 4th of July yet. No one's saying Merry Christmas yet, but eventually you're going to. That's when you use those words in this season. If I tell you Merry Christmas now, you'd be like, or tell you Happy New Year now, you'd be like, bro, what are you talking about? Because it's past that time. It's kind of like a statute of limitations, right? Like it's already past that time. You can't go back. So if you're thinking forward, then how are you able to create that and build that off connection? So definitely that was a great piece, Mo. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And Julie, I don't
Hey,
know where you left to. Go ahead, Mo.
yeah, yeah. Let me slide in a quick copy hack too, since you were talking about subject lines and all that in email. So what I've also set up is a what I call my business spam email. And that's the email that I use when I sign up for anybody's email list, right? Because I'm not necessarily looking for the product, right? I'm not necessarily looking, like I might have initially joined to get the freebie, but I'm not really interested in anything else after that, right? Or sometimes I just want to, just see what other people are talking about, just doing market research. So one thing I do is I have a Google Doc, and once a week I'll scroll through my business spam inbox, and I'm just scrolling. I'm looking at the subject lines, right? I'm looking at the subject lines. So whenever I come across a subject line that gets me to open something, I copy it, right? And I add it to that Google Doc. So now it's part of my swipe file, right? So now, because if it got me to open it, it's going to get somebody else to open it. And so now I can use that, tweak it a little bit to fit whatever I need, and then keep it going. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you're having problem getting open rates, just scroll through your inbox and look for the stuff that gets you to open, and then use that to your advantage.
Thank you, Mo. Appreciate that. John, any last thoughts? What would you say to anyone that's thinking between organic, paid advertising?
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate what Mo said. So, organic, whether you're being in social media or SEO or paid advertising, keep it short, keep it brief. It really, there's been studies, I don't have them in front of me, that show the people will automatically ignore and skip over really long stuff. Really, they won't read it. So keep it short and lead with what's going to get their attention. Hook them immediately, and get interest. Because otherwise, no matter what happens, if they don't become aware of our content, our product, our service, whatever it is, nothing else can happen. There's no conversion, there's no sale, there's no interest, there's no advocacy. So we got to get their awareness first. We got to get that first. So hook them immediately and keep it short. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Mo, as well. That was great. The last thing I want to say to you all listening is this too, so that you can also make a decision, especially when you're now thinking about the strategy. Just to give you some citations, I'll just give you one so that at least you can keep this one as we go. From Search Engine Journal, right? The cost effective SEO high ROI benefit. Think about this. For SEO, let me just say it this way: SEO generates $250 for every dollar spent. That's 87.41% cheaper than other customer acquisition methods, meaning that other platforms you'd have to spend more, like Mo was saying, for you to earn more faster. Now, with a long term effect, that's a much better effect because, yeah, SEO could take 3 to 6 months. It could actually take 3 to 6 weeks depending on how big or small your website is. So not all websites are equal. But when you start thinking about the longer term, because you're in business for long term gain, you're not in business for quick wins. You're in business for a marathon, for a long term, to build relationships, to expand. So that's why you're in business, to help more people every year. So SEO fits better for brands focused on long term growth and authority building. But if you're thinking about, plumber near me, restaurant near me, great. You can go to PPC and run ads. So it's really up to you. By the end of the day, each work best for your business, depending on how you're able to do it. So thank you, John. Moda, thank you again. Julie, appreciate you. Hidden, Husan, thanks for being here today. G Wins, Justice, Wendy, it's been a while. Thanks for being here. And Kay, you're amazing. Appreciate you all for being here. I look forward to being here with you tomorrow. I'll talk about local versus international SEO, and we're going to dive deep into that topic. And I can't wait to see you there. But until then, happy Juneteenth, and I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Take care.